The Awakening. Commander Amani Wilson's breath fogged inside her helmet as she descended deeper into Europa's ice crust. The drilling platform had punched through to a vast subsurface chamber 2 days earlier, but this was her first opportunity to see what her team had discovered. Life support optimal, Commander, reported Lieutenant Naveen Patel through her comms. You've got about 3 hours of oxygen remaining. Should be enough, Amani replied, her headlamp illuminating the crystalline walls of the shaft. Any updates from Earth Command? Nothing new. Admiral Yoshida maintains radio silence protocols. The Nexus swarm took out another colony in the Epsilon Eridani system yesterday. Imani grimaced. 12 billion lives extinguished in moments. The Nexus swarm had appeared from deep space 18 months ago, a vast biological collective intelligence that consumed entire worlds, incorporating their genetic material and technology into its expanding consciousness. Humanity's defensive measures had proven inadequate against an enemy that adapted to every weapon, every strategy. Approaching chamber floor, she announced, the winch system slowing her descent. When her boots touched the ice, she unclipped from the harness and stood in awe. The chamber stretched over a kilometer in diameter, perfectly circular. But it wasn't a natural formation that captured her attention, it was the structure at its center. A towering obelisk of impossible geometry, composed of a material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. Surrounding it, a series of concentric rings were embedded in the ice, covered in symbols unlike any human language. Dr. Nakamura, she called through her comms. I'm sending you visual feed. This is definitely not natural. On the research vessel orbiting Europa, Dr. Elijah Nakamura leaned toward his display, eyes widening. Remarkable, he breathed. The patterns match fragments we discovered on Mars and Titan. This isn't just alien technology, Commander, it's architect technology. The architects were more legend than historical fact, an ancient species said to have seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. Most scientists dismiss them as mythology. Can you translate any of the symbols? Amani asked, approaching the nearest ring. Not directly, but we've compiled a partial lexicon from previous discoveries. The central glyph appears to represent guardian or sentinel. As Amani approached the obelisk, her suit sensors began registering unusual energy patterns. I'm getting some strange readings here, Doctor. Be careful, Elijah cautioned. Don't make physical. Before he could finish, Amani's gloved hand brushed against the surface of the obelisk. The structure hummed to life, the symbols along its length illuminating with a soft blue glow that spread to the concentric rings. The ice beneath her feet vibrated. Nakamura, what's happening? She demanded, stepping back. It's activating. Excitement overcame caution in the scientist's voice. The energy signatures are incredible. It's drawing power from somewhere, possibly converting Europa's thermal energy. 3 weeks later, the discovery had thrown Earth's Unified Defense Council into chaos. Half the representatives wanted to destroy the alien technology. The other half saw it as humanity's only hope against the approaching Nexus swarm. We don't understand what we're dealing with, argued Counselor Ortiz, her hologram flickering in the conference room of the UDC headquarters in Geneva. This could be a weapon, a trap, or something worse. Dr. Nakamura stood his ground. The architects fought something similar to the Nexus swarm in the distant past. This technology, what we're calling the Aegis, was their defense system. Everything we've translated from their language suggests it was created to protect life, not destroy it. And you want to activate it fully? Admiral Yoshida asked, his weathered face grave. When we don't understand how it works? The swarm will reach Jupiter's orbit in 10 days, Elijah said firmly. Our conventional weapons have failed. The Aegis is responding to our interactions. It's designed to interface with sentient beings. I believe it's been waiting for us. Commander Wilson, freshly returned from Europa, spoke up. Dr. Nakamura has my full support. I've seen this technology respond. It had opportunities to harm us and didn't. I believe it recognized us. The vote was close, but desperation tipped the scales. Operation Lighthouse was approved, with Dr. Nakamura and Commander Wilson returning to Europa with a specialized team to fully activate the Aegis. The excavation expanded, revealing more of the ancient structure. As they cleared the ice, they discovered the obelisk was merely the tip of a much larger construction, a vast network of crystalline machinery extending deep into Europa's subsurface ocean. On the 7th day of the operation, breakthrough came unexpectedly. Technician Jasper Wong, working on integrating human scanning equipment with the alien technology, accidentally completed a circuit between two components. The entire structure surged with energy. The ice chamber filled with light as holographic displays materialized around them, showing star maps, biological diagrams, and complex mathematical equations. It's some kind of interface, Elijah breathed, his fingers moving through the floating symbols. It's trying to communicate. The light concentrated, forming a humanoid figure composed of intricate geometric patterns. When it spoke, the words emerged directly in their minds, bypassing language barriers. Guardians recognized. Architect Defense Protocol Aegis initialized. Threat assessment. Nexus pattern consumption swarm approaching. Defense capabilities. Initializing. It's sentient, Imani whispered. Not exactly. The presence responded. I am a defense system with adaptive intelligence parameters. I was created by those you call architects to protect emerging sentient life from cosmic threats. I have been dormant for 3 million of your years, awaiting activation by qualifying species. Dr. Nakamura stepped forward. And we qualify? Your neural patterns match compatibility requirements. You face extinction from a threat pattern I was designed to counter. Imani felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's cold. You fought the Nexus swarm before? The entity you encounter is one manifestation of a recurring cosmic pattern. My creators faced it. Others before them faced it. Now it comes for you. Can you help us defeat it? Asked Elijah. The geometric figure pulsed. Not alone. I require symbiosis with compatible minds to achieve full operational capacity. Without this connection, I am merely technology. With it, I become your shield. Symbiosis. Imani questioned. What does that mean? Neural integration with selected individuals. A merging of consciousness to guide my defensive capabilities. The process is voluntary but irreversible. The team exchanged glances, understanding the magnitude of what was being offered. How many people would need to connect? Asked Elijah. 12 would be optimal, representing diverse neural patterns across your species. Admiral Yoshida's voice came through their comms. We've detected Nexus swarm scout vessels entering the Jovian system. They've changed course and are heading directly toward Europa. They know you found something. Imani looked at the glowing figure, then at her team. If we do this, if we connect with you, what happens to us? You become more than you are, the Aegis replied. And together, we become the sentinel that stands between life and oblivion. As alarms blared and the first Nexus vessels entered Europa's orbit, 12 volunteers made their choice, stepping forward to face an ancient power and an even more ancient enemy. Transcendence. 5 years after the Nexus swarm's defeat, humanity's expansion into the cosmos had accelerated beyond anyone's wildest dreams. New colonies flourished across a dozen star systems, connected by Aegis-derived transit corridors that bent space-time in ways once thought impossible. On Earth, the integration of architect technology had revolutionized every aspect of civilization, from medicine to agriculture to governance. Yet success brought new challenges. The conduits, those 12 individuals who had first merged with the Aegis, were changing in ways that troubled many. Their physical forms grew increasingly abstract, their speech more cryptic, their connection to humanity seemingly more tenuous with each passing day. Director Joaquin Ortega, head of the newly formed Stellar Cooperation Initiative, studied the latest reports from the observation team tracking the conduit's transformations. As one of the few people who had regular contact with all 12, he noticed patterns others missed. They're not losing their humanity, he explained to the Council of Systems during an emergency session. They're evolving beyond our current definition of it. Councillor Thabo Nkosi from the African Union leaned forward, his holographic projection flickering slightly across the vast conference table. Evolution implies natural progression, Director. What's happening to them is artificial, alien technology, changing human beings into something else. Is it? Joaquin countered. The architects designed the Aegis to be compatible with minds like ours. What if this was always our potential destiny? The debate echoed across human space, with some viewing the conduits as prophets leading humanity to a glorious future, while others saw them as cautionary tales of technological overreach. Religious movements formed around them, as did political factions advocating for restriction of all Aegis technology. Aboard the research vessel Prometheus, orbiting the newly discovered ruins on Proxima Centauri b, Dr. Valentina Kolosov monitored the excavation teams exploring what appeared to be another architect's site. this one far older than the Europa facility. The dating puts this at approximately 12 million years old, she reported to her team, predating the Europa installation by at least 8 million years. Her assistant, Dr. Markuschan, whistled softly. Different architectural style too. Look at these curved motifs versus the geometric patterns on Europa. Different era of their civilization? Or different faction, Valentina suggested. The architects may not have been monolithic in their approach. As they delved deeper into the ruins, the team discovered something unexpected, evidence that this installation had been deliberately deactivated, its power sources removed, its systems shut down in an organized manner. This wasn't abandoned, Marcus observed. It was decommissioned. Before they could investigate further, the site's ancient security systems activated, sealing the excavation team inside. Emergency protocols engaged, but communications with the orbiting vessel were cut off. In the darkness of the sealed chamber, the walls began to glow with familiar blue patterns, the language of the architects, but with subtle differences that Dr. Kolosov hadn't seen before. It's responding to our presence, she told her frightened team. Just like the Europa facility did. A holographic projection formed in the center of the chamber, not the geometric figure the original conduits had encountered, but a more fluid, organic shape that shifted constantly. Warning, it announced in their minds. Aegis protocol corruption detected. Architect schism protocols engaged. Quarantine in effect. On Earth, in the mountain complex that had once been Dr. Nakamura's laboratory, the remaining conduits gathered, drawn by an inexplicable urgency. They all felt through their shared connection. Something has awakened, former Commander Wilson said, her voice now permanently layered with harmonics. Something that opposes the Aegis. Former Lieutenant Patel nodded, his physical form now so transformed that he appeared to be composed of living light contained within a roughly human shape. The Descent faction. The architects were not unified in their vision for evolution. Explain, demanded Director Ortega, who had been summoned to the gathering via an untraceable communication. The architects faced a schism in their final era, ex-technician Wong explained. One faction believed in guiding younger species toward transcendence, becoming like them. Another believed such intervention was dangerous, that each species must find its own path without shortcuts. The Europa Aegis represents the Transcendence faction, Amani continued. What your team has found on Proxima Centauri b is a preservation installation. Joaquin processed this information, understanding the implications. You're saying there was a civil war among the architects? Over us. Over species like us. Over the future of consciousness itself, they replied in unison. Across human space, Aegis-derived technology began behaving unpredictably. Transit corridors fluctuated, medical systems reset to baseline functionality, and the enhanced communication networks that had connected the colonies faltered. On Proxima Centauri b, the ancient installation fully activated, sending a signal that propagated through subspace, interfering with all architect technology. Dr. Kolosov and her team found themselves connected to this second alien consciousness, not merged as the conduits had been, but touched by its perspective. It shows us another path, Marcus said in wonder. Slower evolution, but fully our own. Between these two competing visions, humanity found itself at a crossroads. The conduits gathered their strength, channeling the Aegis consciousness to counter the preservation signal. Director Ortega established emergency protocols to maintain essential services while the invisible war between ancient ideologies played out across human systems. In orbit around Mars, the battlecruiser Phoenix, commanded by Captain Riyak Hadam, detected unusual energy signatures emanating from both Earth and Proxima Centauri. Whatever's happening, it's escalating, she informed her crew. Both signals are growing stronger. Lieutenant Commander Javier Rodriguez, the Phoenix's science officer, studied the readings with growing concern. Captain, these patterns suggest they're heading towards some kind of resonance cascade. If these opposing energies collide at full strength, they'll tear apart the fabric of space-time in this sector, Ria finished. Contact the conduits. We need options. The response came not through conventional channels but directly to the minds of everyone aboard the Phoenix, a brief but clear message. Come to Luna. Bring representatives from all colonies. The choice must be made by all. 72 hours later, on the lunar surface, representatives from every human settlement gathered in the newly constructed Harmony Dome. The conduits, now barely recognizable as human, occupied the center of the assembly, while Dr. Kolosov and her team, still carrying the echo of the preservation consciousness, stood opposite them. Director Ortega opened the proceedings with simple clarity. We face a choice between two paths the architects themselves could not reconcile. Rapid transcendence through the aegis, or preservation of our natural evolution. Both ancient factions believe they offer us salvation. Neither will force their path upon us. Captain Kadam presented the scientific analysis. If these opposing signals continue to strengthen, they will destabilize space-time throughout our colonized systems. We must choose one path, or create our own. What followed was the most profound debate in human history. For 3 days, representatives argued, scientists presented data, philosophers contemplated implications, and ordinary citizens offered perspectives. The conduits shared visions of transcendent futures where humanity joined a cosmic community of evolved consciousnesses. Dr. Kolosov's team presented the preservation vision, a longer road, but one where humanity retained its essential nature while growing through its own efforts. On the final day, as the competing signals reached critical intensity, Director Ortega proposed a third option, one neither architect faction had considered. We choose both paths, he announced to the assembly. And neither. We will use the knowledge of both factions but surrender to neither's vision for us. The proposal was elegant in its audacity. Human systems would utilize aspects of both aegis and preservation technology, but always under human control. The conduits would serve as intermediaries to the transcendent realm, while researchers like Dr. Kolosov would explore natural evolutionary paths. Humanity would remain unified while exploring multiple futures simultaneously. We reject the false dichotomy, Joaquin stated. We choose diversity of thought, of path, of future. When the assembly voted, the decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The gathered representatives sent their answer simultaneously to both ancient consciousness networks. We honor your wisdom but will determine our own destiny. In the aftermath, something unexpected occurred. The conduits, channeling the full power of the aegis consciousness, reached across space to the preservation installation. Instead of conflict, they initiated dialogue, the first communication between the opposing architect factions in millions of years. Through human intermediaries, ancient enemies began to reconcile. The resonance cascade stabilized as the opposing signals harmonized, creating a new pattern neither had anticipated. The conduits explained to a stunned humanity what had happened. The architects could never resolve their philosophical differences because they had become too similar in thought. They needed a third perspective, a younger species with fresh insights. They needed us. In the decades that followed, humanity expanded outward along multiple evolutionary paths. Some colonies embraced aspects of transcendence, their inhabitants gradually evolving into more abstract forms with extended consciousness. Others focused on natural development, advancing through traditional scientific methods while maintaining their biological nature. Many chose a middle path, using technology to enhance rather than transform. The conduits eventually departed physical space entirely, becoming what they termed bridge beings, entities existing between dimensions who could communicate with both transcended and conventional intelligences. Before leaving, they established the Concordance, a library sanctuary on Europa where the full knowledge of the architects could be accessed by any who sought it, but always with the understanding that knowledge was a tool, not a destination. On the 50th anniversary of what became known as the Harmony Accord, an aging Director Ortega stood at the observation deck of humanity's first intergalactic vessel, the Odyssey. Captain Kadam, now Fleet Admiral, joined him, her uniform adorned with the symbols of both aegis and preservation philosophies. Did we make the right choice? Joaquin asked softly. Ria smiled, gesturing toward the vast engineering marvel they stood within. A ship capable of reaching the Andromeda Galaxy within a human lifetime, built with technology that respected human biology while expanding its capabilities. Look at what we've become, she said. Not what the architects intended, but something uniquely our own. As the Odyssey prepared for its historic journey, the great engines powered by principles from both ancient traditions, humanity stood at the threshold of a universe more vast and complex than either architect faction had imagined. Their future remained unwritten, their potential unlimited, not because they had followed a predetermined path, but because they had insisted on charting their own course among the stars. Across the cosmos, other young species were awakening to the same ancient question, and now humanity would be there, offering not answers, but something more valuable, the freedom to choose.